Welcome back, my listeners, and to the new ones, welcome to the adventures of astronaut Joel, the first space marine devil dog. If you haven't already done so, please listen to the other parts to my audiobook to the Regiment of the Damned. If you already have, thank you so much. Now sit back and relax and enjoy this part of the audiobook. The Regiment of the Damned Act 1, Part 3. Back in the briefing Part 1.
Guardsman, so you are telling me that the Orcs retreated by the side of this pod, correct?
Yes, my lord, at the time, it looked like a drop pod from a Space Marine chapter. Callus interrupting again.
Even knowing it had what you describe as parachutes, correct?
Yes.
Yes, what guardsman?
Snapping back like an earth-shattering Nova cannon. Yes, my lord! Seeing a smirk on the Inquisitor's face, the captain looks over at Johnson.
Guardsman, have you seen our dropships before?
Yes, sir, I have. Not making eye contact with the captain out of apprehension.
For the record, can you please describe what you saw in the sky?
With a deep, humble voice. Yes, my lord. Looking at him now. It was a gray cylinder triangular pod. The size of it looks like it could hold up to 3 men. As it was entering into our atmosphere, it was completely engulfed in flames. When the fire around the pod was out, Joel deployed 3 big parachutes, and he also deliberately dropped his chutes to fall quicker to avoid the incoming fire.
Guardsman, I will make one thing clear,
replied Callus.
Do not say the thing's name, do you understand me?
Sliding his right hand over his bolt pistol latch, to unclip it with his thumb, with a dry leathery glove over his hand. Yes, my lord. During which he, clearing his throat. And the thing's pod was getting shot at in all directions from the Orcs. The pilot then disengaged its safety features so the pod can drop at it at an alarming rate to avoid the incoming missiles shot by an Orc kill squad. At the last second, the thing pulled his reserves before it crashed down on our planet. Others and I went to the crash area to find out who or what was in there. What we discovered was something out of the ordinary. Before we got there, it landed in the green swamps nearby, and we saw what we thought was a space marine covered in green slime. At about this time, there was about a squad size of Orcs gathering around, and they were about to shoot on sight until this thing started talking to them. We heard voices coming up ahead before we got there. To be honest, we really do not know how long this thing was talking to these Orcs. But his first clear words that we all heard were, "Gork and Mork asked me to tell you all to start being more orky." Gork and Mork also said that I shall not be touched. Because Gork and Mork has choosing me to talk to your war boss. Where is he? All the Orcs paused and started discussing what they should do. I took the opportunity, and we killed them all. Looking over at the captain and back at Inquisitor Callus. Right after the fight was done, which only lasted a couple of minutes, the thing popped out around his pod. He seemed quite surprised to see us there.
What do you mean by that?
Asked the captain, moving each finger inside his power glove. My lord. Feeling at ease when talking to the captain. If I were in that situation, I would be running towards the first human I see. He was very hesitant to show himself to us. In my opinion, he was just as confused as we were to him. Our interaction was very brief at that time.
Why is that?
In my report to Commissar Thaddeus, I stated that within 10 minutes of us making contact with Joel. Inquisitor Callus interrupting fiercely.
I told you, guardsman, for the last time, do not say that thing's name.
My lord! Nervously moving in his chair, and fearing for his life one more time today. What I am quoting is an official report given to a commissar of the Imperium. I cannot alter those words. It would be lying about an official document. Callus growling at Johnson, and showing his anger with a balled-up fist, and spitting on the ground at the feet of Johnson. Johnson hears a deep inhale from the captain.
What did you say in your report, and what did you say to the thing?
Well, my lord, it said something to the fact on. Within the first 10 minutes of us getting there, Joel was on the ground, passed out, and before that happened, We had a little bit of a conversation.
What did you say?
I said, "Don't move, who are you and what are you doing here?" You will think he would respond appropriately to the questions at hand, but his first question was, "What year is this?" I told him it was 718.M41. Right after that, his face got really scared, confused, and surprised. Then he looked at his forearm and a hollow light screen popped up with some words on it. I was too far away to see what it said, but it looked like our standard writing. To me, he had no idea what year it was. It felt more like he was more scared than relieved to see us. Then 2 seconds later he said Jesus Christ and passed out. We gave him some clean air from one of our packs that we carry and brought him back to his feet with us. We suspected he passed out because of the air. When we rushed over to him to give him aid, we did not see a blood scriber tube implant at the back of his neck. After a few minutes of fresh air, this thing got his strength back and we explained to him that our commissar requested to speak with him. I asked him again what he was doing here and what his name or at least rank was. The thing told us he was a sergeant and he had valuable information that he must tell the nearest commissar around. He had some gear with him too. One military-issue sea bag, a black hard suitcase and one smaller backpack attached to the sea bag. The thing also had on what appeared to be a powered hazmat suit with a helmet. The way he walked was more mechanical than natural. I suspected it was a powered suit because he told me he was from Terra.
What does that have to do with anything, guardsman?
Shouted Callus. Johnson taking a breath. The gravity on planet Plaxton is about 3 times more than Terra. So, unless you were born here or have some mechanical aid, you cannot be walking or running around with that much ease, my lord, especially for time this thing said he was in space for.
Sergeant Johnson, I did not take you as being so observant.
Respectively from the captain, while looking over at Inquisitor Callus, seeing him looking at a report to hide his face.
Captain, have you had any record of a space marine doing such a thing?
No, Inquisitor, a space marine only talks with other brothers and allies.
Are you sure, Captain?
Space Marines do not talk to orcs, and to even do so is heresy. We are the Emperor's finest warriors, remember that, Inquisitor. Now, Guardsman, please continue the events to and from the encounter at the swamp.
Yes, my lord, it took us about 3 hours to get there and back.
Why so long?
We had questionable disappearances when going to the swamp, my lords. Thinking for a moment. Normally at that distance, we should have been there and back within the hour as per protocol with our standard operating procedures. We left with 15 men, came back with 9, that is with him from the pod. We lost 3 more soon after coming back to the walls. Johnson, remembering the rotten smell, and what looks like small bugs that were leaking out of Private Ortega's stomach. The report says something about the wounds that started having worms or bugs coming out of it like it was eating him. The others got impelled by some type of spike from a rifle.
Sounds like chaos corruption to me, guardsman.
Looking over at the captain.
What are your thoughts on this, Captain Invictus?
Inquisitor, at this time, I cannot make a sound judgment. However, if we were to trust the weight of these words, the sergeant needs to talk more about what he saw and what he did.
My lord, with the most respect, I don't think it will make a difference, to be honest. The captain eyeing Johnson for interrupting. What I meant to say, sir, is, on our way back to the walls this thing saved my entire squad, because he noticed something that none of us even saw. The only other person who saw it beforehand was Private Todd, and I was 15 feet from it and did not even see it. Moving his body weight out of nervousness, and his right leg shaking up and down uncontrollably.
Continue, Sergeant. Please amuse me as to why is that.
Putting his helmet down, and crossing his arms, and tapping his right hand on his biceps on his left arm. My lord, we killed the creature that was killing us. This lictor, as the thing called it, was killing us without leaving any blood on the ground. The lictor, their purpose is to hunt behind our lines to gather intelligence and to spread mass hysteria and confusion. It killed our morale in the whole unit. Nobody wanted to go outside in fear of this one lictor. Now imagine having 3 of them running around on the battlefield. Now, what this thing has told us is that this lictor has the perfect camouflage. It could be standing in this room, and you will never know it is there. Even our hand scanners cannot pick it up. The only thing you may see is a shim in the air like a dull glare of steam rising in front of you. As soon as you blink your eyes, it disappears. However, as soon as you kill it, you will see the true form of it, and it is disgusting. It is quite literally the scariest thing I have ever seen in my entire life, and I've been to the death home world of the Catacans. This thing also believes that the Catacan devils are part of a Tyrranids hive fleet, just from an exceedingly long time ago that got lost and has converted back into its feral state, due to not having the hive mind to control it.
Guardsman, how old are we talking about?
He said that the Tyrranids were first seen by the Ordo Xenos of the Inquisition on or around the 35th millennium. Also, this thing was talking about a person named Inquisitor Cryptman but does not really know if he has been born yet. He said don't let Inquisitor Cryptman go all Cryptman on the galaxy or something like that. I have no idea where he was going with that.
Sergeant, can you describe what this lictor looked like after you have killed it?
Yes, my lord, they stand about 2.5 meters and weigh about 1 ton. They have 2 excessively big blades on top of their shoulders. They alone are 1 meter long, if not longer. They look like the scythe from the Grim Reaper himself, with 2 other arms with 4 claws on each hand, as dangerous as a Catacan knife. They have this ability to shoot some type of claw thing out from their chest. Johnson moving his hand back and forth to his chest to motion the hooks coming out, which hooks into your flesh and drags you into the kill zone of their massive blades. Johnson looking over at the captain. You might be thinking your armor is going to save you, but it will not help at all. Not to mention the camouflage it has. Nothing, and I do mean nothing, can beat that. The only way to kill it and live to talk about it is to kill it before it knows that you know it is there. If you try and look for it, you will never see it. You must look at the signs around your environment.
Guardsman, if this is in layman's terms, I can only imagine scientific terms.
Callus looking over at Captain Invictus and scoffing, flipping his black hair. My lord, the only thing that gave it away was when we were walking back to the walls, the thing noticed the tree branches and grass were not moving in the wind. That is when this thing noticed the shim in the air, and that's when Corporal Todd spoke up about him seeing this shim as we were looking for the others who did not make it to the crash spot. Callus walking around the room.
Tell us, Johnson, who in your group of men did not make it to the pod?
Stopping just inches from the ground with his right foot.
Oh, and Guardsman. Make sure you do it in scientific terms.
Callus turning around with his back towards Johnson now. Johnson narrowed his eyes sharply at the Inquisitor. The ones who died trying to make it to the pod site were 2 corporals, Favor and Smith. They were on their 5th cycle. 1 private named Reynolds, he was on his 2nd cycle. The only things left there were their lost guns that fell from their hands, and next to them were legs and torsos. After looking more into it, there were far too many body parts there to add up to the missing ones from my group. So we think we found the other missing men from other patrols. Strangely, we also found the remains of Orcs' bodies cut up and dismembered as well. The captain noticed an odd behavior in Johnson's body movement.
Sergeant, tell us what happened to your men.
Yes, my lord.
Thank you for listening to Part 3 of the Regiment of the Damned. Turn in next week as we listen to the events leading up to the discovery of the pod and the accounts of Sergeant Brock Johnson and his time in the woods with his men. Will more questions be answered, or will there only be more questions later? Why is the captain so concerned about Sergeant Johnson's body? And what is the meaning to the voice at the end? Stay tuned for more Avengers of Astronaut Joel, the first Space Marine Devil Dog.